Ever since the beginning of the series, Jujutsu Kaisen has been merciless, killing off important characters left and right. But there's one death that's been sticking with people, surprisingly. One that I didn't really expect to be talked about as much, especially in the way that they're talking about it. Sorry for the inflammatory thumbnail, but YouTube loves that inflammatory stuff. But in case you can tell by that, today we're talking about Junpei, one of the first character deaths that we see, and it's a pretty important death too. Many people saw this, and to this day, there's a sentiment that he should have lived, that he was wasted potential, that it could have been good to see him with the main trio. And honestly, it kind of makes sense at first, because even the anime added some scenes with him with the cast. And there were some of these in the manga too, but for the most part, I think Junpei's death was pretty deserved. Not in the sense that he deserved it, in the sense that it was important, it played a crucial role, and it was done pretty well. It was necessary for multiple other characters. This video is going to be more unscripted than the usual ones I do, but it's going to be a short little video discussing why I think his death was necessary, and more importantly, why I don't think Junpei was wasted, actually the exact opposite. Junpei's death wasn't unnecessary, and the fact that we get all these glimpses of him with the main cast, that's intentional. It's to make us feel what Yuji's feeling, because his arc and his death, as little as we got to see of him, it still was a crucial turning point in the series, especially with how early on it happens. And it mainly has to do with other characters. Let's start off by talking about Yuji. Obviously, this whole little saga with Mahito and everything, it dealt with Yuji not only trying to stop Mahito, but also trying to save Junpei. Even kind of becoming friends with him too. This arc feels like it's more so about Yuji than anything. We get to see how quickly he establishes connections with people. Junpei is a lonely kid who gets bullied. He doesn't seem to have many friends. And immediately when Yuji comes into his life, it seems like he already has a friend. And Yuji even goes away from his mission that he had too. He shouldn't have been doing this, but he became friends with Junpei anyways. And he went away from his directives. This showcases one part of Yuji's character, the compassion that he has for others and how easily he gets along with them too. It's one aspect of him that gets fleshed out a bit here. But more importantly in this arc, we see Yuji's first really big struggle with himself. Sure, he's already struggled up to this point, but I'd say this is his biggest struggle so far. First of all, it's Yuji's first experience with death, in the sense of a death due to curses. He's seen this around, and he's even dealt with his grandfather's death, as well as his own death too. But this is exactly the kind of thing Yuji wanted to prevent, an improper death. It's the first time he's seeing one unfold, and one that he could have stopped. At least one he felt he could have stopped. It's a huge aspect of his character because this is his whole motive. Right from the beginning of the series is what his grandfather tells him. Try to help others as much as he can. And on top of that, Yuji wants to ensure that he and everyone else around him has a proper death. It's set up right from chapter 1, and this is the first time he's coming to terms with both of those things not going his way. Junpei dying a very improper death, an undignified one. He's seeing the cruelty of curses here. As painful as this was for Yuji, it was a really important lesson for him too. It shows that he can't always succeed in helping others, just like he wanted. This again is something that was laid out at the beginning of the series. Yuji's grandfather says that even if he can't help everyone, he should at least try. Yuji was so focused on accomplishing his goal here that the fact that he was trying to help out, it completely escapes him. He just feels like a failure for not winning here. Even though he was doing the right thing and what he should have, he tried to help to his fullest abilities. This isn't the last time that Yuji will struggle with this either. We see more of it later on, and I actually do have a full video about Yuji coming out soon, and that will touch more upon this. This video is just about Junpei though, so we're just focusing on the scope of this arc. But that's another part of why Junpei's death is so important here. It sets up this through line for Yuji. The first time he has to deal with not being able to save someone. Realizing that he can't always win, the fact that he can't always help somebody. Of course, he deals more with it in Shibuya. With a lot of the stuff in that arc building upon what we're shown in this arc too. And that's another big reason why Junpei's death is so important here, because it establishes Mahito and Yuji's connection. It lets them meet each other for the first time. And it's our first display of what Mahito's actually like in his cruelty, and the hatred that lives within him, and the fact that he wants to draw that out of Yuji. Molding Junpei into a villain and killing him, it allows Mahito to see more of Yuji, to see a little bit of the hatred that's in Yuji. Of course, this arc showed us his compassion, and the lengths that he goes to for others, but without Junpei's death here, Mahito probably wouldn't be as interested in Yuji as he was, with the idea that he wanted to draw out that hatred from him. Of course, he knew that Yuji was a vessel for Sukuna, but that's really all he cared about before. Killing Junpei allowed Mahito to have some sort of interest in Yuji too, with Mahito now wanting to toy with him more, bring out that hatred within him, and try to prove to Yuji that they're one and the same. Pretty much everything in this arc surrounds that too. Junpei's death is just one of the most crucial pieces of that. But to me, it feels like some people lose focus on this arc, which is understandable, but a lot of people focus on Junpei himself. And honestly, I get it. But in the end, this arc is clearly supposed to be about Mahito and Yuji. Junpei is essentially a narrative device here. Plus, it builds a connection between Yuji and Nanami as well. Of course, everything surrounding them hunting Mahito. But also, Yuji seeing the same things that Nanami had to see as a sorcerer when he was starting out. We even see a few parallels between them here too. And again, I'm going to lay this out in that long Yuji video that I'm going to be doing later on, but I'll briefly touch upon it here too. Even though Nanami might seem kind of cold on the exterior, he definitely has a lot of compassion for others. He's just been jaded by everything he's seen essentially. But in a lot of ways, he's similar to Yuji, and we get to see some of that here too. Within Nanami's own little backstory here, Clearly he does like using his powers to help others, but he finds disgust in the work that he does, especially seeing all the death around him, even with him directly having to kill the transfigured humans in this part, something that Yuji has to deal with later on too. But what Yuji sees with Junpei is basically like what Nanami saw with Haibara, a friend of his that showed potential as a Jujutsu sorcerer, but one whose life was also cut short by the same exact thing that they were trying to stop. Yuji gets that exact same experience here. While he is helping others, he comes to truly see the terrible things he's going to encounter, and the horrible things he needs to do to help others. He comes to terms with the fact that he can't change curses, being ridiculed by Sukuna and by Mahito at the same time. He sees that he's too compassionate to a fault, and it blinds him to the true evil nature of the curses that he's fighting. But also, he has to see that he can't save everybody. Not just Junpei, but the transfigured humans here that he has to fight too. To basically sum up everything, Junpei's death was important. I would even say it's almost necessary here, but it was really just a fraction of what this arc shows us, and it plays into all of that too. It establishes the cruelty of Mahito and all the curses that they're fighting as a whole. It establishes Yuji's compassion for others, the lengths that he wants to go to save others, and the feelings that he deals with when he doesn't save them. It's the beginning of his internal struggle, realizing that he can't save everybody, and starting to feel like his actions have no sort of good consequences, like he's a cog in the system. This is the beginning of all that. And it establishes an important connection between Yuji and Nanami, not only with him being a mentor figure to Yuji, but also giving us big parallels between the two of them. Yes, maybe Junpei would have been a great addition to the cast. Maybe having that fourth person in the group, it would have been nice to see, but him dying wasn't wasted potential in the slightest. His death did serve a crucial role for these three important characters here. So maybe at first glance it looked like he was wasted, but to me it's the exact opposite. He served his role, and he served it well. Of course, it is an unfortunate outcome, but I think saying that he was wasted as a character is kind of missing the bigger picture of this arc. It establishes so much for us so early on that it feels necessary to me in a way. But let me know what you guys think below. Like I said, this is unscripted, and I basically just recorded this on a whim, so sorry if my thoughts are all over the place, but I've been wanting to make a video on this for a bit. Hopefully you all enjoyed. Be sure to drop a like and subscribe if you haven't already because it really helps with the channel, but as usual, thanks for watching, and I'll see you all in my next video.